Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining and welcome to this week's Product People event. Before starting, please remember that you can watch this stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. Also, a reminder that this talk will be recorded and will be available on YouTube. So if you want to share it afterwards with your fellow PMs, just head over to our YouTube channel and share it over. So we also have a Slido running for you to give us some insights and ask questions directly to the speaker. This Slido link and barcode will and code will be visible on the screen in a later slide as well. So feel free to scan it or enter the number on slido.com to ask some questions directly, share your insights and whatnot. Today, Laura, the VP product at Files, will be sharing how she manages to keep mature SaaS companies customer led, which is really not something that you hear a lot of. So it's going to be a very fun talk, super unique, and I'm very excited to learn about it. But before we actually dig in here and I hand this over to Laura, allow me to introduce myself as well as product people. A little bit about myself is that my name is Amna. I am an associate product management consultant at Product People. I actually have a background in supply chain management before I switched over to product, as many product managers often do. We come from very unique backgrounds and we have really fun journeys. So it's been a few years since I switched over. It's been really fun. At this point, I've worked in a variety of domains, small startups, large companies, industries like edtech, death tech, cybersecurity, and clients from different B2B and B2C industries. It continues to be a fun ride, but before I hand over, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Product People. So, especially for those of you who are new here, or even those of you who need a little bit of a refresher, our mission is to help companies discover and deliver great products faster. We do interim product management and empower our product management community to share knowledge generously while managing the hands-on work of a product manager, owner, product operations, or product leaders on a fractional basis. We onboard fast, align teams, and deliver great outcomes thanks to our in-house team. We also curate free events like this one for one of the biggest PM communities in Europe that has over 60,000 members and growing. You are thankfully now a part of this community. So before we hand this over, we want to do a really quick icebreaker. You can open slido.com and enter the number that you see on screen. You can also scan the QR code and let us know your thoughts. For the ones watching on other platforms such as LinkedIn, etc., please feel free to share your answers or share your opinions on this in the comments, and we will definitely look into it. So the question for today is, what's your biggest bottleneck when shipping something with LLMs fast and with high quality? The options are as follows. A, turning a messy prototype into something engineering can reliably ship. B, getting consistent testable outputs, that is evaluation, QA, and reliability. C, closing the last 20%, which is edge cases, polishing it up, or the unglamorous long tail. Or D, managing stakeholder expectations once a demo looks done. So while I wait for some of you to send in your answers and we collect them, I'm going to share a little bit about what I think about this question. Based on my personal experiences, if I'm honest, I feel like the biggest part of this, or like the thing that I've seen most often is really option D, which is managing stakeholder expectations once a demo looks done, right? When you are producing something with LLMs or with AI, it becomes increasingly easy to have something that looks refined and polished, but you really need to manage your stakeholder expectations around this. Once it looks done, that does not mean that the engineering work is done. And that could mean that there is a lot more to do on this front. So managing those stakeholder expectations is really, I think the toughest part and the biggest bottleneck. The second one would also be getting consistent testable outputs, in my opinion. That's because LLMs do sometimes tend to hallucinate. So you really need to make sure that every time that you are trying to recreate this using such tools, it is in fact of a quality and reliability that you can repeat it, and it is in fact working the same way. Maybe while we wait for answers, Laura, do you have any opinions here? If like you have relevant expertise in this domain.
I'm really with you with the answer D. So managing stakeholder expectations once demo looks done, and it's really that kind of when you see the polished surface, it's like that. What takes it so long to get it production ready? So really, the D is also kind of biggest bottleneck, I think, for me as well.
I agree. Speaking from personal experience, so there was this one time that we presented this really great prototype to a lot of our stakeholders. And following that, we had to manage those expectations really, really intensely because they thought it was done. Now,
Yeah.
what they didn't realize is that there was a lot of design work pending. There was also a lot of work pending with the engineers. So that was definitely an area that we suffered the most or had to work on the most, managing those expectations. But I do think that that is definitely a very important part of being a product manager, figuring out how to manage those expectations and really build those expectations out with the rest of your stakeholders. So I think that that's definitely what I believe as well. Let's try to give everybody a few more minutes to answer. Let's see if we have any answers coming in. Cool. It looks like we do have some answers coming in. It seems like people do tend to agree with option D, which is managing stakeholder expectations. That seems to be a recurring theme for a lot of us. Um, there's also answers coming in around turning a messy prototype into something engineering can reliably ship. So I do agree that that might also be a case that a lot of people end up facing. With that being said, I think that we have, gathered some input over there. So we're going to move to the next slide. So let me tell you a little bit about Laura before we hand it over to her. Laura is a seasoned product leader with over 20 years of experience in software development. She leads a large Nordic B2B SaaS product portfolio serving over 100,000 customers, combining strategic product vision with a deeply customer driven mindset. Laura is known for turning mature SaaS environments, into modern value focused product experiences through clear direction, analytical thinking, and strong customer empathy. That experience and customer centricity is exactly what Laura will bring to the table to share with all of us today, which is impeccable in a field that may not usually be synonymous with customer centricity. That being said, over to you, Laura.
Thank you. So there's a really moment in every product's life when the roadmap starts serving the organization chart instead of the customer. And quite often you don't notice this happening. Backlog is full, teams are busy, revenue is growing, which is great. But somewhere between quarterly planning and next release, customer has become an abstraction. I have spent over 20 years in software, yeah, ages, and last several years leading large B2B SaaS portfolios with over 100,000 customers. I have also established along the way a couple of startups. So I can tell you that the most dangerous phase of the product's life, it's not when startups scramble. It's the moment you think when everything is figured out. Comfortable is most dangerous word in product management. Not failing, not struggling, comfortable. Because this means that you have stopped asking that whether the thing you are building is still the thing your customer needs. This doesn't mean that you are feeling comfortable or you are living the easygoing life. No, you can run like crazy and your days can be full of meetings and full of really kind of the things that excites you and things that you have the clear grasp that it's impacting the product. But if you pause and if you think and if you start reflecting and start thinking that what you are doing or are you doing the right things or things just right? This is the state. And comfort doesn't arrive as a single moment. It arrives three forces that quietly pull you away from your customer. And this is what I call about maturity trap. Maturity trap is the illusion of knowledge. When you have been market for years, you think you know the customer. You have data, you have personas, you have the support team fielding thousands of tickets. And but knowing about the customer is not the same as knowing the customer and customer's day-to-day life. Data tells you what has happened, but it doesn't tell you why someone has given up before even they filed a ticket. In one example I can give you here is that when I started working in one company, it was years ago, there was a belief that company serves mid to large size enterprises in certain industries. As a new joiner, I did some data analysis of my product portfolio and explored things. Data revealed that, that the product was most used by the lower end of the mid-segment customers, or you could easily call them small customers. And it also revealed that, we catered to really large enterprises, which was odd because the mid-segment was almost completely missing from the picture. So I did some rework because data points didn't kind of add up, but data was correct. And when I presented this to my peers, the instant reaction that this cannot be true. So company culture and the common kind of language and how the product was discussed kind of was so strong that even the data that pointed out at the other direction was kind of questioned. But it was really great exercise and really kind of great thinking that that when you are in major business and working with major product, you need to always refresh your thinking and do the kind of analysis over and over again so that you don't kind of decline and kind of not be on top of your product and your business. Complexity tax is that where major products accumulate features, integrations, configuration options. Every one of them has been right decision at the time, but some of these hundred of right decision can be that products that's harder to learn, harder to love, harder to change. And this is also your biggest assets, your depth. But it's also that where that becomes thing that is slowing you down and eventually slowing the business down. And this is where the whole presentation leans. When the depth of the product is dragging the product down, you really need to outsmart the whole customer experience and product experience. And there is also the maturity trap, the stakeholder gravity. In growth stage company, customer voice is loudest in the room because it has to be. It really has to be. But in mature company, there are other louder voices as well. The board, the sales team, the partner channel, compliance requirements, you name it. And none of these are wrong. But if the customer voice is just one more input in prioritization spreadsheet, you kind of already lost the plot. So here's the real question. It's not how you stay innovative. That's the wrong frame. Real question is that how do you keep your customer's reality as a primary input into every product decision, even when your organization has gotten very good at generating its own reality? In one product, we had the search experience that technically worked really nicely, but customers couldn't find things, and the search didn't provide them results. And but when we actually watched how they used the search and really kind of focused on how they used it in their businesses, it was not what they told us. It was what they did. And we saw people running the same searches 3 to 4 times, slightly different keywords, and they had learned to compensate the system. That's not the satisfaction, that is the resignation. And resignation doesn't show up in your NPS score. It's an instrument for friction, not just outcomes. So you really need to watch the behavior, not just watch the surveys. Satisfaction surveys tell you how people feel about the product when they have learned to use it. Of course, you can do this differently, and we can have our opinions about the NPSs, but let's not point up about the KPI, but let's focus about the what you can learn from these. But really kind of most often the scores tell you that how customer doesn't tell you how customers have created workarounds, and the gap between customer report and what they actually do is one of the most important product insights live there. An interesting example from the product NPS is that you can also fix that without even fixing the product. So in the same company where I did the data analysis about the customers, was that where data showed the perceived customer profile was -40, so -40. And just by helping customers using the product more efficiently with communication and short trainings and overall communicating better with the what we are doing with the product, we lifted NPS bit over 0. So even though this was not the sustainable action, it kind of helped, bought us some time to fix the underlying issues, and we made kind of steps to fixing the real problems by first just fixing the perception of the product. And one kind of distinction I want to make is that discovery is the delivery engine most of us live inside. We prioritize, we build, we ship, we measure, we iterate. And this runs in quarterly cadence quite often, and it's very good of producing output. Of course, AI challenges the cadence here. And discovery sits with 0 to 3 months quite often. User interface, interviews, friction analysis, prototype testing. This is where most product teams think that they are being customer-led. And actually they are, but only within the frame that they already have. So pointing out the research that how that is different. Research operates with longer horizon and broader perspective. It asks, how are your customers' markets shifting? So focusing on really kind of what is the customer operating environment? How are their workflows evolving? What are the new technologies that is about to change the competitive field? So if you're working with the manufacturing customers, how are AI impacting there or so on? And my favorite question is how digital consuming evolves. Since working with the major B2B SaaS products, we are quite often laggards what happens in B2C digital consumerism. And this allows us to kind of really discover the things that are already discovered and utilize those into our product. Yet it requires the research, because otherwise we could kind of just copy-paste stuff without further thinking. And these are the questions that really reframes our discovery, not just refines it. So research flows into discovery and reframes that what matters. It also has to direct align to roadmap. It challenges your assumptions in your delivery engine. And I really think that most organizations, product organizations, are nowadays really good at discovery layer. But I quite often see that we are not that good in the research layer. So questioning our own frame. And that is the practice too. Protect the time for the questions that challenges your roadmap and not just refine the roadmap. And if you only do the discovery, you will iterate really beautifully towards the destination of your customer, where your customer is already left. So kind of I encourage you to reserve time on research part. And here is what startups doesn't have quite often. And this is kind of really the cool thing. When you have the 100,000 customers, thousands of organizations who have lived with your product through real workflows, real crises, real organizational changes, a lot of things has happened, and it's really the stress test for your product. That's not the burden, that's not the support burden. That's one of the richest source of product intelligence on the planet, I think I can reclaim. And the trick is go beyond feature requests, because feature requests are customers doing your job, most often quite badly. And because we as a product managers or product people have not given them better way to tell what actually matters. And these are the questions that we need to ask. So instead ask, what has changed in your world in the last year that our product doesn't reflect yet? That is the good question to ask from the customer. That is the question that unlocks completely different conversation. It's not about the features, it's not about it's all about customer reality. And it's reality that what your product is exposed to day to day. And that is the practice 3. Your install base is not retention metrics, it's the sensing network and signal network, and we should treat it like one. So I make counter argument. Now somebody in the audience is thinking, that sounds great, Laura, but I have the private equity investors, I have the board, I have the quarterly targets, I have this and that. And I can just pause delivery and go have deep conversations with customers. And you're actually right, but I'm not suggesting you to pause anything. I'm suggesting that investment is staying close to customer reality pays off in the metrics that matter the most. Net revenue retention, expansion, reduced churn. So every time we caught a friction point early and it gets fixed before it becomes support escalation or competitive loss, the return on investment is obvious in the retrospect. The problem is that it's invisible in advance, and that's why it's hard to justify to take the time. So customer-led is not opposite of commercial-driven. It is really the sustainable version of it. Because in B2B SaaS or in SaaS business, your customer makes buying decision every single renewal cycle. If your product drifts from their reality, the spreadsheet will eventually tell you. And by then the damage is already done. And we are entering in era of where AI will touch every product, or we are already there. And there's a thing that nobody wants to hear. If your content layer is chaotic, AI amplifies the mess. So AI will really amplify the mess. So if your data layer, your understanding how customers actually use your product is chaotic or outdated, AI doesn't fix that, unfortunately. It amplifies that. Customer-led clarity is not just a product strategy anymore. It's an AI readiness strategy. And because new users have already entered in the market, and no, they are not Generation Z, it's the agents. So that is kind of that you really need to understand your customer reality and who are today's customers, end users. So here's what I want to leave with you. Maturity is not just a phase to survive, it's an advantage to deploy. And you have really something that every startup invites, real customer base, real usage data, real relationships, and product that has survived contact with reality for years. So you have the stress tested data, and that is something that really makes the also the major B2B SaaS products really interesting area to play and grow in product management perspective. But what does this all mean in terms of fresh experience actually for the major products? And it's something that you probably might not think. It's really that fresh experience. It's not the redesign. It's the moment when your customer thinks that they really actually understand my world and my work. So, like I said, it's not the redesign, it's not new UI, it's not rebranding, definitely not rebranding, and it's not the AI feature bolted on the homepage or bolted on the feature or workflow, but fresh experience is what happens when customer who has used the product for years opens it up in one morning and discovers that you have solved the problem they hadn't even articulated yet, and you have worked with the workarounds they had. Of course, this generates the new sort of things, that how to retrain the customers and how to make the new features or new way to use the product usable for them and intuitive them to start using it again. So that when they open this, for example, search experience I mentioned earlier, that finally works in the way that they think, they really know how to use it, and how to use the workflows that no longer needs the workarounds, and the onboarding experience that reflects how their teams actually can operate today, not how they have operated when they first have signed up. So it's kind of the really overarching work that happens here. And that is the pay of every practice we have talked about today. So when your instrument for the friction, you find the resignation, and when you invest in research, you see the shifts before they hit. So when you treat your customer base as a signal network or sensing network, where you really can harvest the kind of insights, what to build and how to fix, you hear what the customers need before they ask it, or before they ask new buttons or Excels or something like this, that is quite often seen. And as a result, it's not the new products, it's the same product, but customer feels that they are understood, and this feeling that they actually understand my world is the freshest experience that you can deliver. And quite rarely, which is kind of quite interesting, competitors cannot copy it, because it comes from years of earned closeness with the customers. And this can be really the competitive advantage that you can have with the customer. So here's something that I want to leave with you, that maturity is not phase to survive or phase to struggle or shut down the lights when you leave the room. It's really the advantage that you can deploy, and you have something that every startup really invites, the real customer base and real usage data and real relationships that I just kind of reframed. And this is kind of really super. So the question is not whether your product is too old to be exciting. The question is whether your organization is still brave enough to let customers change your mind. So this is kind of the key takeaway here. And something also I want you to think of after this presentation. This week or next week, pick one one assumption your team has about your customer that hasn't been tested in last 6 months. Go test it, and not with the survey, with the real conversation, and see whether the answer will surprise you, because quite often it will, and let also that surprise go into your roadmap. And this has been really kind of the question that I have been using, and I have been living with some of the products, and the conversation I have had with the customers has created really interesting insights. And especially with the AI age, it kind of created some insights that we really didn't bolt the AI on top of some feature or some workflow, but we really incorporated in new way that delighted the customer and kind of created more stickiness. So it's not that major products don't die from the lack of innovation, they die from the lack of listening to the customers. And listening is choice that you can make in every single day, and being close to the customer. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was very, very informative, and I personally really enjoyed it. I think also one point that really resonated with me was when you spoke about managing stakeholder expectations, especially when they are pushing towards further discovery or further, sort of that feature factory mindset, which a lot of people do get into. I think it's also very important to remember the customer centricity that you're supposed to look into when you are in product, because you are meant to be a champion for the customer rather than meet those goals year on year. But that being said, of course, there is a fine line and you need to draw a balance. So I'm sure we will have some questions coming in around that. But yes, thank you so much for your insights. This was a very, very informative session. Thank you everyone for joining
Thank
as well. We are now going to begin our Q&A session. So please feel free to go to our Slido and put all of the questions, all of the comments that you may have so that we can share them with our speaker. Feel free to also put them in on chat if you're joining in on different platforms like LinkedIn. I'll also give you some more time to type in your questions. And in the meantime, I'll go over a few more slides about product people just while we collect some of those questions from all of you. Perfect. So let's talk about the use cases when you may want to work with us. Our interim product managers and owners cover parental leaves, scale up your product management team quickly, or lead key initiatives while bridging the gap until a full-time employee joins. With us, you can get temporary help to drive product discovery and delivery for a deadline or create big impact in a short time. We can also coach product management teams to reach their full potential through streamlining processes from 0 to 1, including product ops and product management. And we can also assist with running discovery to uncover the next impactful initiative or product. That is a funny one because we just talked about discovery and research and, agreed they're both super, super important. So definitely we will help out with both. Like I referenced earlier, we work with a number of B2B and B2C clients. Here on screen, you can see some of our B2C clients that we have worked with, including eBay, Tier, FreeNow, or DeepL. So there's quite a few. When it comes to B2B clients, we work with companies like the World Health Organization, Ametria, Sastrify, and so on. Last but not least, I want to share some important stats before we move forward with the questions that people are sharing and they're really rolling in. So we've supported over 690 cross-functional teams and over 100 clients from Series A startups to publicly listed companies. We have 40 product leaders and product managers in-house to deliver high-quality services to our clients. We also take great pride in having 59% women in the team with 60% in leadership roles. So that's not a stat you see super often, but I can say that I'm super, super proud of it. And now that a lot of questions have rolled in, let me share a few of these and let's like bug Laura's brain, get some answers out of her and see what you've all been curious about. So one of the questions that's come in is, can you share an example where customer feedback challenged assumptions that were strongly supported by internal data? maybe you have a few examples to share there. Yeah.
Yeah. Customer feedback challenged assumptions that were strongly supported by. Yeah, I think the example I just shared about the doing the in one company where I entered in product director role, I did the analysis, and internal thinking was that our customers are kind of ICP is the mid-sized and large enterprises, and when diving into more in that, it really challenged this internal communication. But when customer feedback challenged it internal data, let me pause and think here.
Absolutely. No, no worries. You can pause and
Yeah,
think, because I'm sure everyone like really wants to know something that you've been through, something that you've tackled, because I know you've done so much.
yeah.
So no worries, take a moment.
Yeah, I think the one of the kind of was that we had couple of big prioritization items. Both have the tech debt angle, and then we had collected the customer feedback, and I don't know, was it kind of supported by internal data, but I think internal opinions were involved in that. So kind of we really want kind of internal pressure what was that we really need to focus on another topic. And when we dived into that more detailed, we deprioritized the kind of internal push against the customer feedback. This was kind of another part was the kind of renewing the financial solution reporting, and another part was more technical to kind of related to SSO type of approach. So this was something, and I think that it's there are strongly supported internal data, but I think one of the key things is also this strong internal opinions that might need to be worked around.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. That's also something that I think I have come across. And then you really need to find supporting ways to convey that message forward. Another very interesting question that we have had come in is, what are your favorite, or maybe not favorite, but what are some signals of customer resignation that perhaps do not show up in an NPS? And which one of these, maybe you can give some examples of ones that the product team can detect fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think that if you look in from the data perspective, especially with the products that are heavily used, it can be something like that. Some features or the modules of the product is kind of losing its attention or something. So that can be kind of the signal that if you have the kind of product but that has several modules, customer has stopped using some part of the product, and this is not showing in the NPS. It shows in the in actual usage data, and they
Mhm.
probably have then already resigned that module, and then there is the threat to kind of have the resign to other parts of the products as well.
Perfect. I see that we also have more questions coming in. So another one that we have is, how do you keep teams close to customers when the product is already large and has an established user base? That's an interesting
Oh,
one.
yeah. It's always, and it's, I think the trick is that customers are always willing to be heard. So they are quite often, the customers want to be heard. I think the kind of, if you have the large customer base, um, the danger of here is that you only work with this small portion of the customers, and when you get to know them, you just use them as a source of feedback, and you kind of ignore the other type of signals in that. So kind of having the heterogeneous customer interviews or feedback loops with them is I think one of the key things. But I think the getting the close to customers is quite easy to establish, and you can use it. There are tools for that, but you can use Slack or Teams also to have those communities in there.
Makes sense. And your key advice over there would also be to make sure that you are covering a heterogeneous segment of those customers rather than a particular type of customer, because that could mean you
Yeah.
are building a solution out for just one subset of your customer base and losing out
Yes.
on a lot more. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. That makes sense. And customers are, of course, they might need a push sometimes, but they are generally willing and happy to be heard. They definitely want a say in the way that they use your product. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. I am personally someone who always fills out surveys, so I do agree with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's another one, and this one seems interesting because it seems to have come in from PMs that are sort of engaged day to day in product management, really meeting their roadmap commitments and whatnot. So they've asked, how do you protect time for research, which is what you stated as the assumption challenging layer, right? So there was
Yeah.
research and discovery. So how do you protect time for research when the roadmap pressure keeps pulling everybody into near-term discovery? Or
I
maybe you
think
could tell us how you navigated that. Yeah.
yeah, I think this needs to be really kind of have the alignment with the top management, because otherwise if the top management is constantly pushing with the discovery and delivery, it's kind of quite hard for the individual product manager just to reserve enough time and kind of show the value. So I think this is one of the kind of things that needs to be aligned, and it's kind of the importance to understand what is coming. And I think one of the key things in AI era is that you research what is possible, not just kind of glue on top of what already exists. And it should be, I think the buy-in should be there, at least with the private equity owned companies with this one.
Yep, absolutely. And then I think something that has made it a lot easier is that this is an era of AI and that you can use it and leverage it in a way that makes things a lot simpler. For example, market research or collecting those data sources is now a lot easier than it may have been 10 years ago. So people can really utilize their time wisely, I think, in that perspective as well.
That's really true.
Yeah. Another question that's come in is, what criteria helps you to decide whether to kill an idea early or versus investing more time in validation? So that's an interesting one, considering as a PM, you sometimes do, end up getting a little married to your idea, and it's really, really important to keep yourself objective there. So
Yeah.
interested in, yeah.
I think the product market fit and understanding what is really the essence of your product is one of the key things. Of course, it's easier whether when you are evaluating that, is it a kind of the product level question, or is it the feature level question, or more granular question. The kind of bigger the question is, I think more easier this is, that whether it's like the built by partner type of thing, or yeah. But I think my criteria is to really understand that what is our core, how does this fit to that, and if it doesn't fit to our core product or our core offering, then kind of kill it. And also understanding resourcing wise that is it kind of the worth investing more, and maybe understanding the business case. So if there is the huge business potential, maybe you can research and investigate more. But yeah,
Perfect.
business perspective and other criteria applied. Yeah.
Yeah. I am going to move forward with asking our last question for today. But if any more questions come in, we'll email them to you to see to get your insights and maybe share those over in the comments and stuff. So the last question actually refers to one of the earlier slides, and it is that you mentioned the knowledge illusion at the start. So how do you distinguish between truly understanding customers and simply having a lot of customer data? Or is that
Yeah.
something that you maybe always visit? But interested to know.
Yeah, this is probably the trickiest part, and this is where we need to excel as a product people. And I think that it comes via validation, and it kind of you see in when you are in interaction with the customers that do you really understand their pain points and these, because it's kind of I think it's human science. Scientists jump into this part, and even I think the data is always important, and things need to be drawn from data or kind of validated also with data. But kind of understanding if you are truly understanding the customer and their reality, it comes from the customer discussions.
Makes sense. So that's definitely a step that you should always incorporate, even if you're fairly certain that you have the right data
Yes.
set. But if you
Yeah.
always have your customers involved, then you will probably be aware of that.
Yeah.
Good point. Perfect. So that was our last question for now. So thank you all for your questions. And thank you so much, Laura, for the lovely, very detailed, and also, super to the point in terms of the content that you delivered in the answers. Really loved it. That would be all for today. We'd also like to mention that we are hiring and have APM and PM roles open. You can apply by scanning the QR code on screen, everyone in the audience, or also, of course, visiting our careers page. And I would also love if you could subscribe to our newsletter, where we share insights and our experiences on products that we gained during missions, or during our general experiences. I'd also really love if you could do that, purely because I am part of the newsletter team and initiatives. So it would mean the world. Coming up next week, make sure you do not miss our live stream with Katrina, the head of growth marketing, who will be talking about the crossroad between product and marketing. Anyway, make sure to join us next time. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Laura, so much for joining, for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, that's a wrap for this week. See you next week.